cast your mind back to 1999. The euro's just been established as a currency, Napster's about to totally change the music industry, and everyone's worrying about the Y2K bug. But most importantly, Star Wars: The Phantom Menace is released to the world. Let's dive into it. As a child of the 90s, The Phantom Menace was my first real exposure to the Star Wars world, and I absolutely loved it. It had everything: spaceships, aliens, monks with laser swords, an iconic final duel, and I was in awe seeing the ranks and ranks of battle droids lined up at the Battle of Naboo. Ever since watching it, I've been hooked on Star Wars. And now, I know that The Phantom Menace isn't everyone's favourite entry in the Star Wars franchise, but for me, it will always hold a special place in my heart as my first steps into that world. So when I got back into the miniature hobby a few years ago, Star Wars Legion was quickly something that made it onto my to-do list. The idea of having my own massed ranks of battle droids, that was an opportunity that I could not resist. So I stocked up on kits and have big dreams. Now, building miniatures is my least favourite part of the hobby, so I won't bore you with that. My real goal with this video is to help you guys figure out how to paint your projects quickly and to a good standard, and that's what I want to do with these Legion droids. The term speed painting gets thrown around a lot in our hobby, and for good reason. Most of us are busy with work, family, kids, social commitments and other hobbies that all demand our time. I know that's definitely the case for me. So we're always looking for ways to be efficient and maximise our productivity when painting on toy soldiers. When I think about speed painting, I'm really looking at efficiency. What stages can I skip? What tools can I use to make steps easier? And what corners can I cut? But I still want to end up with a good quality finish that I can be proud of when I put them on the table. The first step when painting miniatures is priming, and here's the first opportunity to be efficient. Forget about your usual black, grey and white. Instead, why not try using a coloured spray that acts as a primer and also provides the first layer of colour. Already you've saved yourself all of those hours base coating your main colour by hand. For my droids, I started off with a prime of the Colourforge's Ossified Earth. The Colourforge sprays are brilliant and they come in a wide range of colours to suit almost any project. This one in particular provides the perfect base for my B1 battle droids. The second step is adding depth to your base coat, and I know that washes are the way to go if I want to add quick depth and shading to my miniatures. Washes come in a variety of colours, and you can even mix your own if you're looking for a particular tone. You can also branch out into oil and enamel washes for finer detail work like pin washing and blacklining to give you that crispy, sharp shading in no time at all. Combining different types of washes on the same project can really help save you a lot of time, so it's important to think about what mediums you are using where if you really want to maximise your efficiency. For my droids, I used an all-over coat of Skeleton Horde Contrast from Games Workshop. It instantly changes the tone of the whole miniature and provides the perfect mid-tone for B1s, and it leaves me enough room to highlight up from there. Moving on to metallics, one of my favourite tricks that I've used for a long time is a heavy dry brush of a dark silver over a black prime. This instantly gives you a dirty, warm metal look with a lot of depth. It's a great trick to use if you're working on a predominantly silver-based faction, maybe something like Admech from 40k or Minas Tirith from the Middle-earth SPG. I use it on my Necron and Stormcast armies to get that base silver down quickly, and I'm using it here on my Droidicas. The silver base coat is done in seconds rather than minutes, and it needs no shading, so there's no drying time. This trick can also work with things like gold or bronze over a brown prime, so have a think about what colour combinations could work out for you on your next project. So, we've got our models to a decent standard through priming, washing and adding the metallics. It's now time to take them to that next level by adding some details. And for detailing, I'm going to talk about a few different things. Dry brushing is a quick and easy way to add some highlights back onto your miniatures after the base coats and shades have been applied. You simply take some of your highlight colour into a large, soft brush and work the paint into the bristles whilst wiping off the excess onto a paper towel. The aim is to have a very small amount of paint left on the brush. You then lightly move your brush over the miniature in deliberate directional strokes to simulate light hitting the model. This lets the paint that's left in the brush catch on the edges and the high points of your miniature, giving you a really simple but effective highlight. For my current project, I used a dry brush of a very light bone colour just to pick out the edges of the droids and boost the contrast. To maximise your efficiency when painting miniatures, it's important to think about your order of operations. In other words, what order are you applying your colours in? Think about coverage. Is it faster to paint dark colours over light or light over dark? Painting light colours over dark often takes several layers to get a consistent, smooth coat, which is obviously very time heavy, and we want to avoid doing that where we can. You can use high pigment paints like Games Workshop Contrast, Army Painter Speed Paints, or even Artist Inks to help speed up this process, as they generally give you a very intense colour from a single coat. As an example, for my droids I'm using Black Templar Contrast to pick out their blaster rifles. It covers smoothly and easily over the bone base layer and gives me a subtle highlight effect that I'm pretty happy with. One of my other favourite little tricks to use is contrast style paints over metallics. As they're semi-transparent, you can use them to apply a tint over a metallic base layer. I've used red contrast over a gold base to give a candy red look before, and there's lots of different combinations you can go for. Another one that I often use is a yellow shade over silver to give a nice muted gold effect. For my droidicas, I'm using Gore Grunter Fur Contrast over the silver to provide that coppery bronze colour on their outer shell. It very quickly gives me the colour I want, whilst keeping the metallic sheen. I then add to this with a dry brush of a lighter silver to add some quick weathering to the edges of these panels, so you can start to see how combining these simple techniques can give you great results fast. My last tip for detailing is to use effect and gloss style paints where appropriate. I love using these types of paints on gems, lenses and other reflective surfaces. Yes, of course you can go down the blending route and get some amazing results, but that's also very time consuming, so it's not a technique that I would normally use on an army painting project. There's a wide variety of effect paints out there, ranging from things like blood all the way through to colour shift paints. Have a look around and see how you can incorporate these types of paints into your workflow to save you some time. For this project, I used one of the old Games Workshop gemstone paints. A quick base of white, followed by a generous coating of the gemstone paint, gives me a glossy, reflective surface, which is exactly what I'm looking for. Basing is one of my favourite parts of the miniature hobby. Firstly, it normally tells you that you're close to the end of your project, but also I find it's more creative than painting the miniature itself. There's no sculpt, detail or pre-existing colour schemes to follow. Basing gives you the freedom to do what you like and take your army anywhere you choose. There's a multitude of products available to help make basing easier. You can buy big tubs of texture paints fairly cheaply, and Games Workshop even have their own range if you're after a particular tone, colour or effect. There's also flock, static grass, small stones and cork chips that you can apply individually or mix into your own blend. You can even buy this type of stuff in pre-mixed bags like the base ready range from Luke at Geek Gaming Scenics, meaning you can simply apply glue to your bases, dip the models into the base ready mix and you're done. There's a wide variety of finishes in that product range, so you're sure to find something that suits your vision. You can then finish off your bases with tufts, blood effects, or, skulls, whatever takes your fancy. For my droids, I want to base them like they're on Geonosis. I also have my clone army to do after this, and I'd like to use the same basing scheme on both armies, so I can then build a board or something in the future to display them on. To achieve that effect, I used a combination of the two Martian basing pastes from Games Workshop. I like mixing the crackle and texture paints together on bases, as it provides more variety, and I think, a more natural look. I often pile the texture paint high to create some ground form, in contrast to the thin crackle layer. Once that was dry, I simply applied a wash to add some depth, and then dry brushed a couple of highlight colours over the top, following the same principles of efficiency that I outlined earlier. The final step is to run around the base rooms with a few layers of black, or whatever colour suits your scheme, and you're done. Now, let's see how they look after they're all finished.
Roger, roger.
In this video, I really wanted to explain my mindset and thought process when approaching a large army project like this, and what tips and tricks that I used to save me significant time. Using this approach on my battle droid army meant that I got the whole project done in just a few evenings' work, so it easily fit around normal life, and I've now got a pretty good looking army that I can go and play games with. I know how frustrating it can be to feel like you don't have enough time to progress your hobby and work on projects in the way that you want to. So I've had to develop these techniques and this approach over the past couple of years. Hopefully this has been a little bit inspiring for you guys, and you can now take away some of these techniques and apply them to your own projects. I'd like to know from you what tip you found the most useful. Drop a comment about it below and we can talk about it. Or if you've got any other tips or tricks that I didn't mention today, leave the comment below too, and we can all learn together. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you aren't already, It really does help, especially for a small channel like me. And finally, as usual, thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.